Hi everyone, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to be making artwork inspired by Claude Monet. What you'll be needing today are your new art materials from your art folder, so you should have gotten these in class. And if you didn't get any, there are extra copies that you can pick up outside of the main office. So I'm just going to take my paper clip off and I'm going to grab my Monet papers from this pack, and I can put the rest of my papers back in my folder. Now with our Monet papers, we don't need the label or the staple, so you can carefully take those off and throw them away, but you should have 2 coffee filters in your Monet pack. We're going to have a small rectangular piece of paper that we're going to save, and then a larger square paper that will be our background. Today, the only thing we're going to need is our square paper and our coffee filters. I'm going to put the other papers to the side and just leave my coffee filters here for now. We're also going to be using some crayons, some washable markers, and I have some watercolor paints here today as well. Since we are using paint and water, it might get a little messy today, and you might want to get some newspaper or something to lay down to protect your table. And I just grabbed some newspaper that I can use. So the first thing we're going to be using are our washable markers and our coffee filters. We're also going to need some water as well, so I have my cup of water with my paintbrushes here. I'm just going to spread out my newspaper and lay out my coffee filters right in the center. We're going to collage together a water lily-like picture based on Claude Monet. So what we're going to be doing is having a nice pond-like background. We're going to make some lily pads, and we're going to add some flowers on top. Now our coffee filters are going to be our flowers, so we're going to color these and let our colors blend and mix together like our impressionist painters to create our flowers. I'm going to use some warm colors today to color in my flowers, but if you want to use different colors, that is okay. Now our warm colors are colors like red, orange, yellow, and even our pinks. So I'm going to grab those colors of my washable markers. And now the cool thing about using coffee filters is that when you color on these, you can actually let your colors mix and blend together and spread out on your coffee filter once you start to add water. So I'm just going to start by coloring in my coffee filter, doing little sections of color here and there. Now this does not have to be perfect. Remember when we looked at our impressionist painters' artwork and at Claude Monet's artwork? Their colors were mixing and blending together. They were a little bit blurry. They weren't perfect. So that is what we are going for today. We want our colors to blend nicely together to create our flowers. So I'm just using all of my different warm colors, my reds, my oranges, my yellows, my pinks, and I am coloring in all over my coffee filter. Now I'm just almost scribbling back and forth with my marker, making sure I fill in the entire space. But again, it's not perfect. It's okay if there is a little bit of white space here and there, because our colors are going to mix and spread out on our coffee filter. We just want to fill up most of our coffee filter here with our different colors. So I started towards the center and I'm making sure to fill everything in all the way out towards that edge. There we go. That's what one is going to look like all finished. So I still have some white space on my coffee filter, and that is okay. I'm going to put that one to the side and I'm going to color in my next one. I'm going to use those same colors that I did on my first one. So my same warm colors like my reds, oranges, and yellows, and pinks. And I am again just coloring in different sections of my coffee filter here. Great, now that I colored in both of my coffee filters, I can actually put my washable markers away because I don't need those anymore. And now I'm going to let my colors on my coffee filters blend together. So with my cup of water, and my paintbrush. I am going to get my paintbrush nice and wet, wipe it off on the edge so it doesn't drip all over the place, and I'm just going to paint my water carefully on top of my coffee filter. Now while I'm doing this, you're going to see that my colors are going to start to blend and spread out. So you can already see that red that I had there is mixing with my yellow. You might start to see your newspaper through it, but don't worry about that. I am just going to go through and paint the entire thing with my water nice and gently. Ooh, there we go, we can see it a little bit better. Our washable markers are going to start to spread and blend and mix together to fill in all of that white space. Now we don't want to push too hard with our paintbrush because we might rip our coffee filter, so we're just going gently back and forth nicely to fill in all of those spaces and let our marker colors blend together. And you can see it is going to start to leak and spread out, so it is important that we protect our table. Since we are using washable markers though, if you do get any on your table, you can always clean that up with some soapy water and a paper towel. But I'm just going to go in, painting right along until my whole coffee filter is wet. There we go, and you can see it is starting to tie-dye on my paper. It did turn a little bit see-through and you can see the newspaper through it, but all of those colors are mixing and blending together. I'm going to do the same thing on my other coffee filter, just going in with my water and painting right over the top, letting those colors mix and blend together just like our Impressionist painters' colors. Now both of my coffee filters are fully wet. Those colors are all mixing and blending together. I don't want to touch them now. I want to let them sit and dry. If I start to touch them, I'm going to get marker all over my fingers, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to let these sit and dry for now. I'm going to keep my cup of water, and I am just going to take these newspaper pieces that I used and put those to the side so my coffee filters can dry. Now I'm going to grab my watercolor paints. I'm going to keep that cup of water, and I'm going to grab that big square background paper that I have, along with my crayons. Now this is going to be our water for our lily pond picture. So we're going to paint our picture to look like water, but we do want to add some nice texture on our picture, just like our artist did with his paintings. So I'm going to grab some different color blues, greens, and purples. Now these are our cool colors, our colors that remind us of things that are colder, like ice and snow, even grass. So our blues, greens, and our purples. And I am going to use these colors to add some texture on my paper. So with my crayons, I'm just going to go in and draw some wavy water lines. So just drawing some big wavy lines all over my paper to create the idea of moving water. So I'm doing all different lengths of lines. I have some shorter waves, I have some longer ones, all in my different colors. And now we're going to be painting on top of this using our watercolor paints, and our watercolor and our crayons resist each other. So as long as I have these nice bold strokes of crayon, I will still be able to see them once we paint over the top of this with our watercolors. All right, that looks like a good amount of texture for my paper. So I'm going to put my crayons away, and I'm going to grab my watercolor paints. Now with my watercolor paints, I am going to fill in my entire paper to look like my water. I am again going to stick to my cool colors like my blues, my greens, and my purples, and I can paint them right over the top of my crayons. And you can see those crayon lines are resisting our watercolor. They are preventing our watercolor from covering over them, so we can still see those beautiful lines that we just drew with our crayons in all of those different colors, even though we are painting right over the top with our watercolor paints. So I'm just going to go back and forth nice and slowly with all of my cool colors, my blues, greens, and my purples to fill in my background. And those lines that we drew with our crayon are creating some beautiful textures to show some ripples and movement in our water. So I'm just going to keep making sure I wash my paintbrush as I slowly fill in my entire paper so it looks like water. There we go. I'm going to put this to the side as well to dry, and that is all we are going to do for today. We're going to let our coffee filters and our background papers dry, and next week we are going to add some lily pads and create our flowers for our picture. So once your papers are dry, you can save all of them in your art folder until we can finish our project next week. Since we are finishing our projects next week, you do not need to hand anything in today. Just make sure you keep all of your materials in a safe place until then. I hope you guys had fun using all of our different exciting materials to blend colors and create texture. Try your best to have fun and get creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye!